Cheers greeted Kaz as he emerged from the eastern arch, Jesper trailing behind him. And if Kaz was any judge, already working himself into a sulk, Dirks, Roddy, and the others charged at them, whooping and shouting, Jesper's revolver head aloft. The crew had just got the barest glimpse of the proceedings with Gales, but they've heard most of it. Now they were chanting, "The Berkshire is on fire. The dregs don't have no water." "I can't believe he just turned tail," jeered Roddy. "He had a loaded pistol in his hand." "Tell us what you had on the guard," Dirks begged. "Can't be the usual stuff." "I heard about the guy in Slocum who liked to roll around in apple syrup and then get two." "I'm not talking," said Kaz. "Holes could prove useful in the future." The mood was jittery, and their laughter had a frantic serration that came with near disaster. Some of them had experienced a fight and were still itching for one. Had expected a fight and were still itching for one. Kaz knew there was more to it, and he hadn't missed the fact that no one had mentioned Big Bolliger's name. They'd been badly shaken by his betrayal, both the revelation and the way Kaz had delivered punishment. Beneath all that jostling and whooping, there was fear. Whooping. There was fear. Good. Kaz relied on the fact that the dregs were all murderers, thieves, and liars. He just had to make sure they didn't make a habit of lying to him. Kaz dispatched two of them to keep an eye on Big Bull, and to make sure that if he made it to his feet, he left the city. The rest could return to the slat, and the Crow Club to drink off their worry, make some trouble, and spread word of the night's events. They'd tell what they'd seen, embroider the rest, and with every retelling, Dirty Hands would get crazier and more ruthless. But Kaz had business to attend to, and his first stop would be Fifth Harbor. Jesper stepped into his path. "You should have let me know about Big Bolliger," he said in a furious whisper. "Don't tell me my business, Jess. You think I'm dirty too? If I thought you were dirty, you'd be holding your guns in on the floor of the exchange like Big Bull, so stop running your mouth." Jesper shook his head and rested his hands on the revolvers he'd reclaimed from Dirks. Whenever he got cranky, he liked to lay his hands on his gun, like a child seeking the comfort from a favorite doll. It would have been easy enough to make peace. Kaz could have told Jesper that he knew he wasn't dirty, reminded him that he trusted him enough to make him his only real second in a fight. That could have gone badly wrong tonight. Instead, he said, "Go on, Jesper. There's a line of credit waiting for you at the Crow Club. Play till morning, or your luck runs out, whichever comes first." Jesper scowled, but he couldn't keep the hungry gleam from his eye. "Another bribe? I'm a creature of habit." "Lucky for you, I am too." He hesitated long enough to say, "You don't want us with you, Gales." "You don't want us with you. Giles's boys are going to be riled after that." "Let them come," Kaz said, and turned down Nemstrout without another word. "You couldn't walk by yourself through Ketterdam after dark. Then you might as well just hang a sign that read soft around your neck and lay down for a beating." He could feel the drag's eyes on his back as he headed over the bridge. He didn't need to hear their whispers to know exactly what they would say. They wanted to drink with him, hear him explain how he'd known Big Bolliger had gone over to the Black Tips, listen to him describe the look in Gale's eyes when he dropped his pistol. But they'd never get it from Kaz, and if they didn't like it, they could find another crew to run with. No matter what they thought of him, they'd walk a little taller tonight. It was why they stayed, why they gave their best approximation of loyalty for him. When he'd officially become a member of the Dregs, he'd been 12, and the gang had been a laughingstock. Street kids and washed-up cadgers, running the shell games and penning poor cons out of a run-down house in the worst part of the barrel. But he hadn't needed a great gang, just one he could make great, one that needed him. Now they had their own territory, their own gambling hall, and that run-down house had become the slat, a dry, warm place to get a hot meal or hole up when you were wounded. Now the dregs were feared. Kaz had given them that. He didn't owe them small talk on top of it. Besides, Jesper would smoothie it all over. A few drinks in and a few hands up, and the sharpshooter's good nature would return. He held a grudge about as well as he held his liquor, and he had a gift for making Kaz's victories sound like they belonged to everyone. As Kaz headed down one of the little canals that would take him past the Fifth Harbor, he realized he felt saints. He almost felt hopeful. Maybe he should see a medic. The Black Tips had been nipping at his heels for weeks, and now he'd forced them to play their hand. His leg wasn't too bad either, despite the winter chill. The ache was always there, but tonight it was just a dull throb. Still, a part of him wondered if the parlay was some sort of test Haskell had set for him. Haskell was perfectly capable of convincing himself that he was the genius of making the dregs prosper, especially if one of his cronies was whispering in his ear. That idea didn't sit easy, but Kaz could worry about Haskell tomorrow. For now, he'd make sure everything was running on schedule at the harbor, and then head home to the slat for some much-needed sleep. He knew Inej was shadowing him. She'd been with him all the way from the exchange. He didn't call out to her. She would make herself visible when she was good and ready. Usually he liked the quiet. In fact, he would have happily sewn most people's lips shut. But when she wanted to, Inej had a way of making her feel silent, making you feel her silence. It tugged at your edges. Kaz managed to endure it all the way past the iron railings of Zeth's bridge. The grating covered in little bits of rope, tied in elaborate knots. Sailors' prayers for safe return from the sea. Superstitious rot. Finally he gave in and said, "Spit it out already, Wraith." Her voice came from the dark. "You didn't send anyone to Burstrat. Why would I? If Gills doesn't get there in time, no one's setting fires at 19 Burstrat. I heard the siren. A happy accident. I take inspiration when I find it." "You were bluffing then." She was never in danger. Kaz shrugged, unwilling to give her an answer. Inej was always trying to wring little bits of decency from him. When everyone knows you're a monster, you needn't waste time doing every monstrous thing. Why did you even agree to the meet if you knew it was a setup? She was somewhere to the right of him, moving without a sound. He had heard other members of the gang say she moved like a cat, but he suspected cats would sit attentively at her feet to listen to her methods. "I'd call the night a success," he said. "Wouldn't you? You were nearly killed, so was Jesper. Gills emptied the Black Tips coffers, paying useless bribes. We've outed a traitor, re-established our claim on Fifth Harbor, and I don't have a scratch on me. It was a good night." "How long have you known about Big Bollinger?" "Weeks. We were going to be short-staffed. That reminds me, let Roget go. Why? There's no one like him at the tables." "Lots of slobs know their way around a deck of cards. Roget is a little too quick. He's skimming. He's a good dealer, and he has a family to provide for. You could give him a warning, take a finger. Then he wouldn't be a good dealer anymore, would he? When a dealer was caught skimming money from a gambling hall, the floor boss would cut off one of his pinky fingers. It was one of those ridiculous punishments that had somehow become confided in the gangs. It threw off the skimmer's balance, forced him to relearn his shuffle, and showed any future employer that he had to be watched. But it also made him clumsy at the tables. It meant he was focusing on simple things like the mechanics of the deal instead of watching the players. Kaz couldn't see Inej's face in the dark, but he sensed her disapproval. "Greed is your god, Kaz." He almost laughed at that. "No, Inej. Greed bows to me. It is my servant and my lover." "And what god do you serve then?" "Whichever will grant me good fortune." "I don't think gods work that way." "I don't think I care." She blew an exasperated breath. Despite everything she'd been through, Inej still believed her silly saints were watching over her. Kaz knew it, and for some reason he loved to rile her. He wished he could read her expression now. There was always something so satisfying about the little furrow between her black brows.